Okay, we'll pass on that for the time being, and you can, we'll offer you the same opportunity later. One-to-one computing update, Dr. Shine and faculty. Hillary and Kara, do you want to introduce? Go ahead. I'm sorry? Oh, we lost Dr.
Do
Shine?
you want us to introduce ourselves? Or do you want
Would
to?
you prefer that we come down and watch it on the
Yes.
screen?
Oh,
Think that
yes,
might better?
that would be- at
Okay,
least
they're
for the
going to do a
beginning.
presentation.
Okay.
And then you just ran up there. All right.
And I'll just give a little side comment, thank them both for their leadership in this area. I know they have both done a wonderful job and have been an inspiration in helping out a lot of other teachers, so thank you both. Great job.
Yes.
I saw that on TV. You see that on TV.
Depends on what program you're looking at.
I think it's just television and commercials and everywhere.
Okay.
Ready?
We still don't have Dr. Shine, do we?
She was running next door to grab something as I was running.
Would you like me to wait, or?
She should be coming.
Okay.
Work in progress.
Got my income tax done today.
So you know, I dropped it off at the CPA today.
Drop it off Wednesday. Hope it's not the same one. I actually have both my company, Hatfield Realty Trust, and and then my personal one, I had done HRT 2 weeks ago. This was my personal, so hopefully. Probably.
One of the advantages of the one-to-one program is not fighting copying sheets. Let me know. Yeah, do you want me to get started?
We'll start.
Get started,
Okay, all
okay.
right.
Well, thank you, board and community members, for listening to our presentation. I'm Kara Garish, and Hillary Chaplicki is with me as well, and we're just going to update you on how the one-to-one program has been unfolding at the high school. As you know, the intro to the one-to-one program began with a lot of building of infrastructure, wires, portals, getting different wireless, what do they call it, routers in all of the classrooms, and all that wiring. That was easy. Sorry, David and Danielle may not agree with that, but that's the easy part. The hard part in this whole process is getting people to change. People don't like change. Change, as new ideas as well, can be scary. Let's watch.
Ideas are scary. They come into this world ugly and messy. Ideas are frightening because they threaten what is known. They are the natural-born enemy of the way things are.
Sounds like a school district.
Yes, ideas are scary and messy
Is that you, Dave? That
and fragile.
I posted that yesterday. That was before I shaved.
But under the proper care, they become
Still scary.
beautiful.
Still scary. Maybe we're gonna buy GE computers.
So as you know, education, our district, and society as a whole is going through a great amount of change at this point. And what we'd like to do for a few minutes is talk about how typically societies deal with change.
Not just societies, but really specifically organizations. Making a major investment into the technological infrastructure of the district, bringing new equipment, new devices in, as like Kara said, was, knock on wood, the easy part, because it's instantaneous. We literally went from what we could agree was about 1998 to 2013 or whatever year it is within a couple months. The problem is the problem, but also the blessing is it's an organization full of people, and people don't change that fast. This is a very common graph. If you go on Google and you graphic the change bell curve, you'll see about 1,000 of these things. And if you see on the left side, you have the innovators, and then as you move towards the right, you see the early adapters, and then there's a chasm. And the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. It's difficult to convince people of a new idea. And coming from an internal point of view, we have a lot of people here who believe in what they do, who believe in the kids, and who believe in the possibilities that a good education can bring, but that doesn't always mean they adapt to new ideas. So as an organization, we're working our way along there. We'd like to believe that right now, being in the second full year of one-to-one, not quite through the second full year of one-to-one, we're starting to really make some ground in that through the early majority. I don't know if we've hit the middle ground yet, but that's about right. And an initiative of this size probably takes a good 4 to 5 years to really take hold and really net results that are going to be, noticeable, at least for the majority.
One of the things that we have seen in terms of changes in our instruction and changes in our peers or the other teachers in the high school's instruction, now that we have this ubiquitous access to technology, is that now we can go ahead and start to plan our instruction based upon the idea that we have consistent access. In the past, we were on the far left of the spectrum where technology was an event, where we would see if there were computers available to us on a given day for all of the periods that we taught a particular course, and then we would scrounge to see, okay, well, what can I do with computers at this moment? May not always have been the best use of technology, but it was, okay, I can get them, I think they'll work today, let me see what I can do with them. Then as people have more and more access to technology, what begins to happen then is people start to get their feet wet. And as they're getting their feet wet, they'll do what they kind of did before, but they'll do it with technology. They might do outlines online. They might, instead of printing and fighting the photocopier, they may do some sort of worksheet digitally. And then, as people become more confident and become more accepting of the fact that this technology is going to work and the kids can use it and it can be beneficial, we'll see that it's ubiquitous and it's invisible. It's just a part of daily instruction. If you think about technology integration, you think about it in terms of language learning. It's a very different experience to learn Spanish in your Spanish class than to learn Spanish by living and breathing in Spain, learning in Spain. When we're talking about technology, we're really seeing the same thing. As we talk more and more about the development of 21st century skills, communication, collaboration, innovation, creativity, we're seeing that these computers are essential to developing those skills. It'd be the equivalent of trying to teach that foreign language without having interaction within that community. What we've really been able to see is that we're able to transform instruction and transform learning with access, with this consistent access to technology. There's been a lot of discussion in recent years about flipped instruction within the classroom. I like to think of it more as a blended model. Blended learning is another phrase that is often used. With this consistent access to technology, no longer are students having to be in the classroom to gain the content that the teacher wants to deliver. Now assignments can be given to them at home, can give it to them at their own rate as well. And what I have up here are just some of the tools, Web 2.0 tools, all actually free Web 2.0 tools that are utilized on a daily basis by teachers throughout the 9th grade, 10th grade, and then even in 11th and 12th grade, even without the benefit of the one-to-one program. And what's so fantastic about the blended learning opportunities and some of the other Web 2.0 tools that I have on there is the ability to differentiate. And when I'm talking about differentiation, I'm not just talking about remediation, I'm talking about acceleration as well. letting kids move at the pace that they're ready to move in. And activities like Edpuzzle, Educanon are both activities that allow teachers to grab video content, create questions that the student has to answer as they're watching the video. And what's amazing about it is the data that teachers can collect. For example, on Edpuzzle, I assigned one today in my class, and I can instantly see that in a multiple choice question, which unfortunately students still have to answer in their lives with testing, within a multiple choice question, out of the 10 kids who completed the task in class, it was going to be homework for those who didn't finish, 7 of them got the question wrong. And what I realized is that the problem with the question wasn't really a problem with the question, it was a problem with the kids reading. It was an accept question. All of the following are true except. Only one student realized the exception and got it right. They all went through it too quickly. So now with that data, with that information, I can instantly remediate. And when we talk about test-taking strategies, that is something that I can immediately address. So in that situation, not only am I getting this data, are they getting information, but again, I am able to figure out exactly where I need to alter my instruction. A second aspect on that bottom slide is gamification. So many of the skills that gamers use, problem solving, scanning and analyzing for details, are all skills that you would want to see within a classroom. And studies have showed that by bringing games into the classroom, reward systems into the classroom, that learning increases. I was talking to my son, who happens to be a student at the high school, and as I was telling him I was coming here tonight, I said, what's one thing you'd want the board to know about one-to-one computing and why you like it? And the first thing he said was, oh, you get to do cool games like Kahoot. That was the first thing that came to mind. He's like, and then he said, and I can organize my things, I don't lose anything any longer. But the blended learning, real-time data, and gamification are all ways that instruction can be transformed, and then learning is transformed for the student as well. Additionally, sorry, I needed to point to you. Additionally, we have students able to move beyond the textbook. And gone are the days where you needed to come to the school to get knowledge. Knowledge is available to us all with our phones, all at a moment's notice. We can take advantage of the plethora of materials that are out there, and students can take advantage of those materials, and they can start to ask their own questions and find their own answers, rather than just being able to ask the questions that the textbook authors and editors decided were the appropriate questions to be asking about a given topic. We, within our library system, spend so much money each year on various databases that offer information on everything from world literature and world history to automotive technology. We have, if you ever look at our library database collection, it's enormous, the amount of material that we pay for. Now my students can use that within the classroom. We're not anchored down to that textbook. Students have to be consumers of information, so it's one of our duties as 21st century educators to really teach them how to discern good information from bad information, using advanced search strategies, using Google Scholar, connecting as well with people throughout the world. Now I can't say it's a little bit of false advertising because we haven't done it yet, but I know one of our goals within the humanities program is to develop a Skype relationship with students in another part of the country or another part of the world in order to exchange ideas as well. And the one-to-one environment would allow us to do that. I can say that as teachers, we are definitely communicating with people throughout the world through Twitter and other social media platforms. Moving ahead, we also can see that technology changes what it is like, the experience is like for a student within a classroom. That's Hillary.
In our classrooms, and this isn't necessarily a tech-driven practice that we employ, but we have what's called Socratic seminars. And Socratic seminars come from Socrates. It's gathering together and having a deep conversation, and in our case, it's usually based on text. It might be a literature book, it might be articles. We had a pretty serious conversation early in the year about liberty versus security. So we had documents from the Patriot Act, we had articles about, trying to balance the two. And in our environment, we do what we consider to be a 21st century style Socratic seminar. We have a center circle that's actually having a physical conversation using the documents and the articles and the books that the students might be studying at that time. But on the outer circle, they're not just taking notes anymore or just listening for their chance to jump in. They're actually on a back channel. They're on most of the time it's a Google Doc, but sometimes it's Today's Meet or something like that, having a conversation that is related to the conversation that's in the circle, but they can also go off in their own direction. So if someone makes a point about something, they can go off in their own direction. So there might be sometimes up to 12 to 15 students in that outer circle that before the one-to-one probably would just be sitting waiting their turn, and now they're actually involved. And what we've found, that some of our quietest students now have a voice. Kids that sit in the inner circle and we're like, please say something so I can give you your points. Well, now when they're on the outer circle, they have so much to say. They have so much of value to say, and we think that's a valuable part of this too, is that we're finding some voices in some places for kids that are normally quiet, maybe more introverted, the kids that aren't going to be the ones trying to get all those check marks for having all the responses. They're going to be getting some credit too, and more importantly, we're going to be finding out what they think, and they're interacting with their peers just electronically in a different way, and we see that and we notice that. And this struck me when we saw this, that this is so true, and that's one of the aspects of one-to-one that we don't think about the voice that it gives to each student, and it lets me see a student as a part of a student that I've never seen before, other than maybe in a formal writing or something like that, because some students are even hard to converse with. But somehow when they get online and it's digital, they have a little more sense of confidence, and they get to start to express. And it's also a point of where I can meet students and then have an actual conversation with them and compliment them and kind of build their confidence as well. So that's just another small part of things. As Kara was talking about, there's so many different aspects. Is this yours?
This is yours.
Oh, thank you. There's so many different places that we can ask students to go, and more importantly, we ask students to begin to develop the skills to decide where is the best place for them to go to find information, to show and share their learning. And we ask them to rationalize, why did you use Powtoons, or why did you use Voki, or why would you use Padlet, that symbol there that looks like origami?
Gesture.
Is that one?
That's what I always thought of. Gesture's habit. I think you're right, it's origami.
Opportunities like blogging. Again, blogging is a great opportunity for kids because it provides that informal environment where we're not talking about a formal essay process, but it also kind of ups the game a little bit because they're kind of like what what you were just talking about a little while ago to us, in terms of kids now have the opportunity to create what's called their digital footprint. We're very cautious and careful about things like what they do and what they say online to be safe, but now it's not only about being safe, it's about creating yourself online. And these are some of the things we ask kids to do that give them that identity, so that in the future, or even now, when they're looking for scholarships or jobs or college or whatever it might be, and someone looks them up online, which happens all the time, they're going to see some pretty positive stuff. So encouraging them to make that positive digital footprint is something that is going on within the one-to-one program, and it's really only possible when kids have that ubiquitous access, because these things happen quickly, and there's a lot of learning opportunities in what we call those teachable moments that don't always necessarily happen when we don't have that consistent access to technology. Another thing that takes place is that when you have inconsistent access or temporary access, you spend a lot of time teaching and reteaching tech. How to do this. Well, I forgot how to do it, Mr. C. Well, you got to go into there and go in there. But we spend a lot less time teaching tech now and a lot more time learning and discerning and discovering new things together, because we're confident that that platform, that one-to-one is going to be there, and our network is where it needs to be to accommodate those needs.
One of the other aspects coming from this slide is collaboration.
And, yeah, sorry, that's getting my back, is collaboration. All these different platforms that we've had on here, each one could really go on any of the slides. It's really kind of a continuum or a circle here in terms of how these different tools and platforms can be used for communication, collaboration, or creativity. One of the really cool things as a teacher that we saw happen last year to some extent, and we've seen it happen this year as well, is this idea of collaboration. We all know that in a class, a teacher might make a group and tell you, okay, you have to work with this group to get this task done. But one of the very exciting things that has happened is students have created their own groups. And they've been very inclusive in their groups. I don't want to say it's a clique, but for studying purposes, came down to midterm exams, and students who were all within the same class sharing together their notes, their discussion of the review packet that was given electronically. They're going through, I think your answer to number 3 needs a little more detail. Sharing that material, putting graphs, putting links to YouTube videos that explain a concept, sharing all of that information is amazing. They're really taking ownership of their learning, and they were sharing their learning experience with their peers. They were really developing those skills to be lifelong learners, which is of course what we really want for our students. More than knowing these 10 facts, we want them to know how to get that information, how to analyze that information, how to apply that information, and most importantly, have a drive to learn that information as well. So that collaboration component, I think, is so important. Another thing to keep in mind is just because students can use some more to make a great poster doesn't mean that they're necessarily creative. Just because we have access to making online cartoons doesn't mean that they're creative. But what all of this access does, it gives them another chance to take a risk with the material that they have, with the information they have, and develop those creativity skills. Try it out, test it out, and hopefully, as they move forward, become better at it. This one's all you.
This is all me.
This is not me.
Thank you. I think I know almost just about every one of you, at least on some sort of personal level. But you don't know this about me, that I've been a closet Trekkie since I was about 5 years old. Since I got told in kindergarten to stop watching, tell my parents to have him stop watching Star Trek because he's playing it in class all the time and he's disturbing the other students. So it goes back with me a long way. But, you know, sci-fi is like technology. It's like the influx of technology, because sci-fi and technology share a very similar thing. I should say good sci-fi. I know there's a lot of sci-fi out there. Some of it stinks, but some of it's good. Technology used right in instruction in an educational community like this, and sci-fi that tells the story the right way, regardless of how awesome the gadgets are, regardless of whether or not you can collaborate with each other over midterms or beam yourself up to Rigel 9. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is technology used right and sci-fi done right tells a great human story. And that's really what this is all about, and we never lose sight of that. Yes?
I think one of the really neat movies was Avatar, that
Yeah.
recognizing that we have a virtual identity, and then how do you create that? That's an element of branding that you can use, and it's incredible sci-fi.
Yep.
And I think one of the things, and I didn't say this, but the question to ask yet, did I?
Yes.
I did say?
No, you didn't say.
Okay. I think one of the questions to ask really any of the students or teachers who are involved in the one-to-one program is, now that you've had it, would you want it to be taken away? Would you rather go back to not having the computers? And there'd be some that would say, yes, please, take it away. There'd be some. But the vast majority would say no. They can't imagine now teaching or learning without this consistent access. When you dig a little deeper, especially with the students, I don't want to speak so much for the other teachers, but for the students, on my daily basis, I actually talk to students more than I talk to other teachers. And when I've asked students this question, and the few students who have said, yes, take it away, then you would start asking them why. Well, why would you want to take it taken away? Most of those students say, well, because now on snow days, I have to look on Edmodo and see if my teacher gave me an assignment to do.
Or now I have to do more work. The teacher's not just giving me notes and I'm filling in a PowerPoint. I'm creating the PowerPoint to share with the rest of the class. So even when you hear those answers of, yes, please take it away, I think you have to start analyzing and seeing, well, what are real answers, what are legitimate reasons, and which are not, which are just teens being teens. And I think there are a lot of those. I can't imagine at this point teaching without it. And our final shameless little plug here, in terms of really seeing all the aspects of 21st century learning coming into play, is through Da Vinci Day. And I think most, if not all of you in the audience, know what Da Vinci Day is. It's our Golden Rams team process of having students develop a passion project, a genius hour project, a question of their interest, a problem that they are interested in, doing research and creating a reflective TED-style talk presentation upon their research and their findings within whatever it is that they've done. Some of them are inventing things, so it could be demonstrating their inventions as well. So I think it's models like these, like Da Vinci Day, that really bring to life all that can happen with that consistent access. And when we get more and more people past that chasm into the other levels of adoption that were listed within that bell curve. So just want to formally invite all of you, encourage all of you, if you can, to come April 30th at 6:30, and please don't schedule a board meeting like what happened last year on that date, so that more people can come and really be amazed by everything that the students create. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank both of you for coming out tonight. When I was charged to come to this meeting and really talk about one-to-one, I really felt a responsibility to go to the teachers and to the students, people who live and breathe this every day, in all fairness, to say, what is working, what should we do, and based on what you heard this evening, the passion is great. You see that, and you've been invited to Da Vinci Day. But we wanted to even expand that further. So we have a group of teachers and administrators and board members that we're conversing and decided we would have a K-12 technology, 21st century learning event, so that what we see at Da Vinci Day will be amazing. There's no question. However, because I have the opportunity, the wonderful opportunity, to see what goes on K-12 in terms of 21st century learning skills and technology integration, we are going to have a K-12 evening where the community is going to have the opportunity to see what our kindergartners are doing, what our first, second, third, our elementary, middle, and high school students are doing. So we are planning this event. It is May 26th. It's the Tuesday we come back from Memorial Day, and there'll be a lot of communication out there. But I just wanted to let you know, what goes on at the high school is fantastic, but what is actually going on K-12 in this district is amazing, and it will amaze you. And the technology has a lot to do with it. So with that, I thank you very much. And I would like to introduce Mr. Tirada.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So the question that I've been presented to share with you is, how does the IT department support the one-to-one? This is our first year. This is, we've been now a year and a half on the program, and I want to acknowledge Danielle. Danielle's been supporting the board now for a couple of months, but Danielle at the high school, she is like the one-to-one technician. She's the person that is in the front lines of the one-to-one repair and the one-to-one support to the students. So I just want to acknowledge for her efforts. So the way it works is, so a student comes to school, has a problem with the laptop, they go to the library, the librarian issues the student a loaner, and then Danielle, at a certain part of the morning, damage protection plan. So far this year, as of Friday, now remember that we have two models of laptops in our environment, and we have an HP product and then we have a Lenovo product. And we got some numbers from the HP product this year alone. We've had 47 accidents that we have to evoke the protection plan, and about 101 support calls. So, hard drives, screens, keyboards, etc., etc. However, the Lenovo for this year, we have had 18 accidents and 61 warranties. That's a dramatic shift, and we knew that the numbers were going to show up this way, especially in the accident, because the Lenovo product is a more, I want to say, condensed product. It's a product that was created for students in an educational environment, so that it doesn't have a lot of plastic, it doesn't have a lot of air inside, if you will, so when the machine is dropped, the corners don't get cracked, and if they get cracked, they don't expand the crack. So we feel that the Lenovo product was a well-bought product for the ninth graders. It's been like maybe, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 calls that I have received from parents that they have questions at home on how to connect their computer to their printer, how to, just basic questions. Taken personally those calls. I have communicated several times with parents about that. So not that we want to advertise that, because imagine if all 1,600 will call me, but we extend that to the parent and to the student, because we feel that not that they use the computer here in the school, but at home as an extension that here, so we support them. I've also asked them to come and see Danielle in the morning, and we can actually answer the questions and help them with some items. The turnaround on when the student comes and gets a loaner, the turnaround on getting the other computer, depending on the parts, is pretty quick. We feel that our relationship with the vendor that gives us this support is a really good possibility. We have thought in the past to do our own repairs in-house, quick repairs. However, the time that we get these back, it's so quick, and the cost, it doesn't cost us anything for a repair. So we feel that by doing that, we maximize Danielle's time, and also we get the computers back to the students. And that's all I have on the support of the one-to-one. Any questions? Thank you.
So is this on now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'd like to thank the administration for an opportunity here to offer some ideas that look just like me before I shaved, that guy that's ugly. Ideas can be very threatening, as we just said. And I'd like to start out by, first of all, I'd like to say that the presentation that we do as a board, or that I do to the board, should be focused on, according to our PSBA marching orders, we are responsible for the what and possibly the why. We are not responsible for the how and the when. That's clearly administration function. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is the what of what I am suggesting, and for your consideration, and the why. Because obviously, why do you propose anything if there's not pretty good reason to be considering it? First, I'd like to read an article from U.S. News that is dated January 17th of 2015. The title of the article is "Skills Gap Found in College Students." And it starts by saying 40% of students scoring at each level, I think this is after graduation, 40% are found to be inadequate in problem solving and complex learning skills. Rather than, I think I'm going to have to try to read some of the sections of this. 4 in 10 U.S. college students graduate without the complex reasoning skills to manage white-collar work. according to the results of a test of nearly 32,000 students. The test administered at 169 colleges and universities in 2013 and 14 and released Thursday reveals broad variation in the intellectual development of students depending on the type and even location of the schools. Now, we all know that education across our country is not uniform at all. Pennsylvania ranks 8th in the 50 states. Mississippi is probably the worst. And there's all kinds of shades of gray in between. And this is making the statement that there's such a diverse level of these intellectual skill developments as they're entering college, that this test measures the intellectual skill development at college. And they're saying with whatever they have gained in college, 40% are inadequate by the time they graduate. On average, students make strides in their ability to reason, but because so many start at such a deficit, many graduate without the ability to read a scatter plot, construct a cohesive argument, or identify a logical fallacy. Even if there's a notable growth over 4 years, many students are starting at such a low point that they may still not be proficient at the point of graduation, says Jesselyn K. James, a program manager at the Council for Aid Education, which administered the test. The CAE, which is the Council for Aid Education, is a New York-based nonprofit. The exam known as this is where I think is important. The exam known as the Collegiate Learning Assessment Plus measures the intellectual gains made between freshman and senior years. The test doesn't cover subject area knowledge. Rather, it assesses things like critical thinking, analytical reasoning, document literacy, writing and communication, essentially mimicking the baseline demands for professionals. The test comes at a time of rising tuition and student debt and a broad rethinking of the value of a college degree in a changing job market. I'm going to skip a little bit of this, but it comes down to another very important statement, I think. A survey of business owners to be released next week by the American Association of Colleges and Universities also found that 9 out of 10 employers judge recent college graduates as poorly prepared for the workforce in such areas as critical thinking, communication, and problem solving. Employers are saying, take this one, I don't care about all the knowledge you learned because it's going to be out of date 2 minutes after you graduate. I care about whether you can continue to learn over time and solve complex problems, said Deborah Humphreys, Vice President of Policy and Public Engagement at AAC&U, the American Association of Colleges and Universities, which represents more than 1,300 schools. I don't want to take any more time going over that, but one of the things that I'm going to be asking is how do we evaluate our success in our shared values, in our comprehensive plan, which let me find that here. The first one is self-worth, which I'm not going to belabor. Information and thinking skills, the second shared value. Public schools should help students develop the skills necessary to locate and manage information, solve problems, and make decisions, including the processes of analysis, synthesis, creativity, and evaluation. Now that's under the category shared value of information and thinking skills. The third shared value is learning independently and collaboratively. Public schools should encourage students to become independent, lifelong learners and to collaborate with others in developing knowledge, skills, and new ideas. The fourth one, adaptability to change. Let me turn the page. Public schools should prepare students to grow and develop in a world in which change is normal and constant. And I would add, the velocity of change is incredible and has been for the last 20 years. There's also ethical judgment and honest responsibility and appreciation of cultural diversity, which I think are a given. But I'd like to focus on these skill sets that we've talked about, that we as Pennridge High School are committed to developing in our kids. And what this comes down to is the world has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. We are deeply involved in both the digital economy and the knowledge economy. And the knowledge economy has changed the nature of the employee that we are looking to hire these days. And according to this book, Mind Over, these are books, some of the books that I've read that I've used for resource, and I think they really spell out the change that's happened over the last 20 years. Ronald J. Baker, the author of this book, talks about that 40% of the jobs, as of this book was written, and I'm not sure what exactly the date is, I should have looked beforehand, but 40% of the jobs currently in the marketplace are knowledge worker jobs. And 70% of the jobs created in the last 20 years are knowledge worker jobs. Now, what's the definition of a knowledge worker? A knowledge worker is defined as an employee whose output are ideas. And his quantity and quality of his ideas will determine his value to the institution. So this is 21st century learning skills that we just discussed. So that this is underlining the necessity of our kids to be learning this. That one of the changes that's happened in this last 20 years, the fall of communism and the opening of those previously closed markets to capitalism. And what happened in the book, Age of Oversupply, it talks about how these people are used to working for, they're accustomed to working for $1 a day. And in India and Russia and Brazil and China, $100 a month is absolute wealth to them. And our problem is with the ability of the world to outsource and all the rest, how will our kids compete? If we are working with according to the international testing, our kids, the goal of international testing is that we graduate kids with equal skills to the rest of the world. If that happens, we're in deep trouble. Because our kids are coming out requiring our standard of living requires that we can't live on $100 a day. So how do we prepare our kids for the ability to survive against this kind of competition? This book,
$100 a day.
The World is Flat, was written 10 years ago. This particular issue was updated twice in that year. But an awful lot of his very well researched, by the way. There's an incredible amount of information in that book, talking about what's happening in the world and what its impact on us is going to be. And what he's saying is that these people, India in particular, for years they have technical universities there that they've been turning out scientists and engineers, thousands and thousands of these folks that they didn't have the ability to hire within India. And over the course of the technology as it developed, outsourcing and the rest, and the fiber optic cables that had been installed under the ocean, that allows these people to communicate as if they were here. So all of a sudden, our people are being asked to justify why they are worth the kind of money that we would like to be paid. The books say that the primary value, according to in creativity, is the person who creates the information or creates the value is where the value is. So our kids that are going to be necessary. It's going to be for us to be the creative parts of this in order for us to get the kind of value, to demand the kind of value that we need. So creativity and problem solving is absolutely critical in our ability to compete on a world-class basis. So, my pilot. What is my pilot? The idea here is to empower our kids and a select group of our kids and our students and our kids and our teachers. And I start out by saying tech-savvy students and teachers, and to task them with researching the world out there. And the world that I'm including would be the immediate and the global world. The immediate world of our sister school districts. That what are they doing? One of the things, and I'm going to put an aside in here for a minute, I would absolutely recommend any director to consider spending the time at Hershey. I have been there 3 years, 3 consecutive years for 3 or 4 days. And what you get when you're there, you hear experts that they're selected by PSBA, and you hear presentations by your sister districts on what they're doing to meet the challenges of the 21st century. In listening to these folks, and they also give you recommended readings, which I have really spent a lot of time doing. So one of the things that this allows you to do is it allowed me to put Pennridge in perspective. We have a really good district here. And I don't mean in any way belittle what we have here. Our kids are incredible, and we have, these teachers here are incredible. They're doing all the things that we could be and should be doing in our district. The question, if we're talking about that curve, how can we be doing more of it? There's an issue about whether we should have a virtual academy. My belief, and I have to admit being guilty when I even ran for this. I was accused at one point of saying we're going to fire all the teachers and just put a computer up in the front of each room, which obviously is very inaccurate and wrong. But the computer is not just a big calculator. It is a portal into this virtual world. It's a portal into the virtual world that our kids are going to have to both learn to collaborate and to compete with kids in other parts of the world. And the collaboration, there's one case study that I think is something that is kind of important. MIT had a program, they decided that they were going to offer a particular circuits course online. This course had been offered on campus for some number of years with a 50% failure rate. They decided they were going to offer it online in a MOOC. So they put the thing out, and 250,000 kids signed up for it. They panicked. Holy cow, how are we going to support this? I mean, we're going to have 24/7 support to answer their questions and all this. The course was begun. First question I'm going to say came from Pakistan. And before they could even answer, somebody from India said, well, it might be, how about have you considered this? And what followed was a conversation from other kids in other parts of the world that the realization at that point was student collaboration is a resource that up until that point had really been recognized. And the ability for a student, you guys talked about your collaboration within your particular group. The challenge that our kids are going to face is that we're going to have to be, first of all, we're going to have to understand foreign cultures. The only way you can be creative in a foreign culture is you need to understand the marketing side, where the value is in that culture. There was a funny video that years ago we saw. The gods must be crazy, and a Coke bottle was dropped out of a plane, and it was found by a tribe in Africa. And this guy brought it back to his tribe, and everybody thought it was from a gift from the gods. So they thought this was incredible, and they fought over it. It was something that it became so disruptive. The father or the leader of the tribe finally said, well, I'm going to give it back to the gods, and I'm going to run to the edge of the earth, which I think was Victoria Falls, and I'm going to throw it off. And he did, eventually. But what we're talking about here is, suppose you're going to have a garage sale, and you are interested in your junk, you want to get rid of it. Okay, how far is the farthest person going to come from to see your stuff? 5 miles, 10 miles maybe? What if you could market that stuff in China or India or someplace else? Suppose, what would your junk, how would that be considered in these other places? And this is one of the questions that Dr. Zal raises in 3 questions that he talks about in for our kids to consider in choosing their career. The first one is, can the job be automated? And that, with this era of outsourcing and the rest, is becoming almost anything can be outsourced. I mean, what I found out is that even accountants, we're all preparing tax returns now. The current CPAs can be outsourcing the doing of your tax return to somebody in India. Now, there's no security issues there. What they do is they put some kind of random number that says this is tax return number 19257, 12 zeros, and it's outsourced to India. It's performed at a fraction of what our guys would cost, and it's sent back here. What's the impact? Everybody knows around here, April 15th, tax season, these accountants go crazy. Well, there's going to be in the future fewer accountants in this country because a lot of this work and the kind of work that's outsourced is the road stuff. The stuff that is not creative, it's just the stuff that's going through a checklist, and it's, A plus B equals C, and it's really no challenge. So that's the kind of stuff that can be outsourced. So the first question is, can it be automated? If it's not a creative part of the job, then it can be outsourced, and maybe that's not a wise choice for you as a student to consider. The second question is, for a moment, the third question is, can you find demand any place in the world that you could support your particular career that you're Are there changes that you have found through your research with your sister school districts and your experts around the world that what you would like to see changed here? When you're looking at a knowledge economy and you're saying that each person will be valued by the value of their ideas, the best way that you can operate in this kind of a system is empower everybody. Everybody is an expert on his particular job and his particular needs. So we should be listening to everybody. And my belief is that to the extent that we can offer the opportunity for our kids and our tech-savvy kids and our tech-savvy teachers to voice their voice to the administration and ask for change. One example, I gave this presentation on Thursday to Hank Ward and to some of our stars of our Student Technology Association. In particular, I had Thomas Cantor, Edison Fowler, Mike Mason Sheets, and Bobby Lawson. I had 4 kids there. And we're talking about Thomas Cantor and Edison Fowler competed in the robotics part of the and Thomas Cantor and his group, 3 other kids, came in first in this competition. Edison, Steve Sachs, and Alfonso Macasso came in second. When we asked about what could we do to help you, and I think it was Cheltenham, I'm not sure if that was the particular, Hank Ward said that one of the other districts, their kids are working on their robotics projects as part of their curriculum. They're working on it in school. Our kids are doing this in their own time. Edison Fowler I asked him, and he spends 3 or 4 hours a day on his stuff. One of the problems that was associated with Bill Sarney sent an email around, which is absolutely valid, saying, can you have too much technology? And the reason that was directed at 5th, 8th grade students and not necessarily to kids that are a little more mature, but very valid criticism saying to what extent is this a distraction and is going to take away from contributing to the value of our education. According to these kids, they're very serious, and they would use the time wisely if they had time in school. So I'm going to, I think I'm probably going to, I could give you an example of what happened just real quickly. There's a case study that I think is really interesting in describing the difference and the impact of a knowledge worker economy versus the standard paradigm that we have in our school district and in the auto industry of a mass production paradigm. There was a GM plant in Fremont, California in the early 80s that was the worst plant GM had. Terrible costs, terrible safety records, all kinds of wildcat strikes. The quality of the product was awful. No possible choice to save it, they shut it down. Toyota opened the plant 18 months later with 85% of the same people, all the same equipment. And they were doing everything essentially the same except for one major area. What they said after they said, well, this is how we're going to build our cars and this is your responsibility for your work center, what they said was, but you're the expert on your job. And we need your input and to help us know how to build our cars less costly, safer, higher quality in general. What happened over the next 2 years? That plant went from the worst plant that GM had to the best plant. Best safety record, the people were all treated as equals. The management, there were no priority for management. They wore the same clothes, basically uniforms, but they were treated as equals. And by treating these people as experts and recognize them as individuals, they encourage them to become knowledge workers. And my challenge here would be, I hope that we're asking our experts here, in this kind of a paradigm, the workers on a production line are our teachers. And the problems that we run into, many times if you look at the study of what happened in the automotive industry, the workers' biggest problem was they were being asked to fix problems over which they had no control. The problems were on incoming quality materials. This was basically an assembly process where we're going to take a given product, put it together, and build a car. Unfortunately, the pieces didn't fit together right because the incoming tolerances were all over the lot and they didn't fit. You have a similar problem with your incoming materials. Your kids, you have some that are English second language. You have some that are from low socioeconomic groups. You have some from parents who are not reading to their kids or whatever other things that they could be doing. And you as a teacher are being asked to fix it. It's up to you. You have a production line that is just like the production line, 12 steps on your production line. We're going to graduate. We're going to create educated kids. And it's up to the student and the teacher to deliver this product, everything that they need in 12 months during that year before the production line moves. If the student doesn't get it, he's a failure, and to some extent, based on the teacher evaluation, so are you. So the knowledge economy, where we empower our kids, we allow them to learn at their own rate through online education and the rest, we allow a paradigm that removes many of the problems of our existing paradigm, many of the reasons that our schools are being criticized now, and allows us to create something that works. That's going to be the end of my presentation. I'm going to ask except for one final thing. We had talked about having a board retreat sometime maybe May or June. And I really hope we can find some way to do that, because we as a board are being tasked to think and act strategically. As a former CEO for 40 years, I understand what that means. And my understanding of it is that 50,000 foot level, what do you want to create for the future? Our job here is to create the future. The what, not the how, but the what. And it's our job to set goals, to set policy, and to try to create that vision, that light on the hill that's Pennridge 5 years from now, or 3 years from now. So what do we do as a board? How do we challenge ourselves that we become strategic in our thinking? So that's my challenge to you. I think we as a board, I love this. I think as a board we work really well together. I think we're in a position, especially with Dr. Radigan, I really believe I've seen her leadership style involves her willingness and her passion for reaching out to her many constituencies so that she gets their input. And her leadership style is entirely consistent with this. Kudos to the boss. And I think that when we were finishing our presentation at the IU, Barry, the director of IU, had said, your challenge is that you have an opportunity here. You have a new superintendent, you have a new board, and you have an opportunity during this time to really make a significant change in Pennridge. That time, to the extent that there's false starts and programs are started and abandoned because they're not wisely chosen, you can lose this opportunity. We can screw it up. But to the extent that we are cautious in our deliberations, and to the extent that we really are thoughtful and deliberate in deciding what kind of a future we want to create for Pennridge, we have an incredible opportunity here. And I hope that we find a way to make it work. Questions on anything that I've said?
Do you think the public school environment is conducive to creative thinking?
Absolutely. I think that not necessarily the way it has been taught, because I think it's pretty well established that rote memorization